This is an example of how the BBC is covering up the truth about Israel's genocide against the Palestinian people. It's another example of how Israel's actual intent, its blatant, unapologetic, criminal, indeed genocidal intent, is being erased by the BBC to stop you, its audience, from understanding what Israel's actually doing to the Palestinian people. So, meet Aaron Haliva. He's an Israeli general who was in charge of Israeli military intelligence until April 2024, so for the first 7 months of Israel's genocide. This is a recording you're going to hear of comments he made, we know, in the last few months, which was broadcast by Israel's Channel 12 television station.
The fact that there are already 50,000 dead in Gaza is vital and required for future generations. Okay, you raided. Okay, you humiliated. Okay, you slaughtered, you murdered. It's all true.
The price, as I said before the war, for everything that happened on October 7th, for everyone on October 7th, 50 Palestinians should die. There aren't any. It doesn't matter if they are children. I'm not speaking out of revenge. I'm saying this only as a message for future generations. What are they doing? They need a Nakba from time to time to feel there's no choice in this troubled neighborhood. There's no choice.
So let's just be clear here. Someone who is one of the most senior Israeli generals declared that for every person killed on the 7th of October, 50 Palestinians must die, and it does not matter now if they are children. That's what he said. He said it was necessary because it was a message to future generations of Palestinians. He further added they need a Nakba every now and then to feel the price. The Nakba, of course, refers to the mass expulsion of 750,000 Palestinians from their homes, which accompanied the establishment of Israel in 1948. A few things here. Firstly, this guy is not quote-unquote far right. He's regarded as a moderate in Israel. Indeed, when he resigned in April 2024, someone who is badged as far right, the finance minister Bezalel Smotrich, celebrated, and Haliva notes his political differences there in this clip. Second, even though this recording is badged as being from within the last few months, we know that more than 50 Palestinians have been killed by the Israeli state for every person killed on the 7th of October, whether that be an Israeli or foreign national on that day, soldier or civilian. That would mean 60,000 or so Palestinians. The official death toll at the moment is 63,000, but we know that's a drastic undercount. It excludes people buried in the rubble who are badged as missing. It doesn't include those killed by indirect causes, such as from the destruction of healthcare or the lack of food. And also the reporting system in Gaza has been collapsing because of the genocidal onslaught. There's many other reasons, but those are some basic ones. Now, thirdly, know how he makes clear that this death toll is not about those who would be classed as military targets, as Hamas militants, for example. He specifically says it doesn't matter if those killed are children. He's openly stating the desirability of slaughtering huge numbers of Palestinian civilians, including children, for what he styles as a form of collective punishment to discipline the Palestinians and deter them from ever crossing Israel. He explicitly refers positively as something to emulate to the Nakba, which, I have to say, it used to be common to deny the Nakba ever happened in Israel. They pretended it never happened at all. They erased it from history. Yet now Israeli leaders and officials do the opposite. They embrace it actively as something to emulate. But alas, Israel's genocide in Gaza is far more lethal than the Nakba was. Now, what this senior general is doing is making very clear Israel's intent to commit war crimes and crimes against humanity, which it has done over and over again in full view of the world. There's no pretense here, no attempt to lie that it's all very regrettable that civilians are killed, that we do all we can to avoid killing civilians, but alas, this is war. He makes clear that slaughtering civilians is an integral part of Israel's strategy. This is a straightforward confession of war crimes and crimes against humanity by someone who is a key figure in Israel's leadership. And yet nothing, zero, zilch on the BBC News website, the world's biggest online news source. It's reported in Israeli newspapers Haaretz and the Jerusalem Post. That's a right-wing Israeli newspaper. It's reported in The Guardian, which gave important context about Israel's genocidal intent. It's even on CNN, which is guilty of often dire coverage of Israel and Palestine. Nothing on the BBC. The BBC throughout has covered up explicit genocidal and criminal intent by Israeli leaders and officials. In doing so, deceiving its audience about the real nature of what Israel is actually doing to the Palestinian people. For example, on the 9th of October 2023, Yoav Gallant, then Israeli defense minister, later indicted by the International Criminal Court for war crimes and crimes against humanity, with charges centered on starvation, said imposing a complete siege on Gaza. No electricity, no food, no water, no fuel. Everything is closed. We are fighting human animals and we're acting accordingly. It had a single mention on the BBC website at the time, but it was buried, appearing towards the end of an article. No explanation given about the criminality of his statement in an article which buried the lead. The headline was, Israel's military says it fully controls communities on Gaza border. On the same day, Israeli General Ghassan Alian said, Hamas became ISIS and the citizens of Gaza are celebrating instead of being horrified. Human beasts are dealt with accordingly. Israel has imposed a total blockade in Gaza. No electricity, no water, just damage. You wanted hell, you will get hell. This was overt genocidal language, making explicitly clear Israel saw Palestinian civilians as military targets who would suffer collective punishment. It wasn't mentioned at all by the BBC at the time. This has gone on all the way through the genocide. If the BBC had given proper coverage to these confessions, then it would have had to report Israel's onslaught as the criminal enterprise it was from start to finish. So it didn't. So it could stick to the script of, this is Israel defending itself, with a side debate about whether that response is proportionate or not, where we can all agree to disagree. That's their approach. Here's another example from Bezalel Smotrich, the Israeli finance minister, in May, and this has just been translated by, again, the brilliant anti-Zionist Jewish activist who goes by the handle I Really Hate You on Twitter. Don't worry, he's real. I've recently met him in Copenhagen.
This time, for him, the operational method is completely different from what it was in the past. Not methods with ins and outs. We conquer, clear, and stay until Hamas is destroyed. Along the way, we annihilate everything that remains of the Strip, simply because everything there is one big terror city. As part of the war, the IDF is moving the population from combat zones and leaving no stone unturned. I'm telling you, just look at the videos of what's happening in the Gaza Strip. The population will reach the south of the Strip, and from there, with God's help, to third countries, as part of President Trump's plan. This is a change in the course of history, no less. The minimum required will reach the population simply so the world does not stop us and accuse us of war crimes. The Israel Defense Forces are finally conducting a campaign against the civilian governance of Hamas, not just focusing on the military infrastructure. We are eliminating ministers, officials, sycophants, and figures in the economic and governmental structure of Hamas. For 2.5 months, we did not allow humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. This created a very significant pressure on Hamas, and that's a good thing. But pressure also needs to be managed so it doesn't backfire on us. When the IDF returned in recent days to maneuver with full force to conquer the Gaza Strip, when the IDF moved the population from the place where they still had a little food, and our greatest friends in the world, those who support us, those who understand that we cannot stop a moment before absolute victory and the destruction of Hamas, when they ask us to help them, to help us, and to refute the lies of starvation, we need to do it. What will enter in the coming days is very little. A few bakeries waiting to provide pita bread to people in public kitchens, offering a daily serving of cooked food. Citizens in Gaza will receive a pita and a plate of food, and that's it. This is exactly what we see in the videos. People standing in line and waiting for someone to dish some food onto their plate, to have some soup poured into their plate. Would I want to avoid the need to bring even a single grain into the Gaza Strip, even for the civilians? Maybe. I very much understand the anger. I very much understand the painful discomfort that we all feel as citizens. The truth is that until the last hostage returns, we shouldn't even give water to the Gaza Strip. We've been hitting Hamas hard for 1.5 years. We are dismantling Gaza and leaving it as a pile of rubble with complete and unprecedented destruction in the world. And the world still hasn't stopped us. The aim is to achieve the one and only required result: conquering Gaza, destroying Hamas, and returning all the hostages. Or in one word, victory.
So he says that we conquer, cleanse, and stay. On the way, we annihilate everything that still remains. The IDF leaves nothing standing. We're breaking Gaza apart, leaving it as a pile of rubble, total unprecedented destruction, amongst other genocidal utterances. Nothing subtle about this. Nothing in the slightest. Overtly genocidal language, not covered by the BBC either. He's the finance minister. That's the Israeli finance minister. And everything he's wanted from the beginning, Israel has delivered. Now, lies by omission are still lies. The BBC should have made clear what Israel's leaders explicitly said are their actual motives over and over again. But they didn't do so. And in doing so, they whitewashed the genocide. They stopped people being able to know, to be aware of what Israel is actually doing. It's as though these utterances are happening in a parallel universe, like it's not really happening. Like it's all somehow not real. That's how they treat it. I mean, what they do instead is they frame their coverage around Israeli statements, which are made for Western audiences, where they say, we're not trying to kill civilians, we protect, you know, and then they blame Hamas, human shields, all the rest of it. But in Israel, they don't speak like that. They just overtly say they're committing war crimes. So you end up with a situation where what actual Israeli leaders and officials are saying to their own people is erased, whilst statements prepared by Israeli press officers for Western audiences, which were a pack of lies, that is treated as the official Israeli position. But that's a lie. The BBC is lying to you, and it is whitewashing a genocide, and that's not going to be forgotten. Please like and subscribe. Help us take on the pro-genocide media at patreon.com/HomeJosie4. I'm currently abroad. I'll explain when I'm back, because I am working on this book called The Fall of the West. So normal service will return. So as you can see, not the usual camera, but you know, or microphone. So bear with me. But share the video anyway. Like, subscribe, leave your comments, leave your thoughts, and you can listen to the podcast. I'll speak to you soon.